Hello everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here today. This is your one-stop shop for cryptocurrency analysis, among many other things. We're taking a look here today at MLN, which is Enzyme. It's not melon, which I like to call it for some reason, but this is a request from my community members here, more specifically one of my patrons. Ruby, thank you so much for requesting that I cover this here today. Now, moving forward, I'm not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes only. You should do your own research. And if you are new to the channel, consider subscribing to my Patreon account. I share all of my trades with my community members and provide you with best practice. Essentially, I provide you with signals on every trade that I take. Some weeks maybe more, some weeks maybe less. This week has been kind of slow, based on the obvious fact that Bitcoin took a nosedive, almost 16% in 2 trading days here, and that slows a lot of growth with our altcoins. However, things are a little bit different here for MLN, and we'll go ahead and take a look at that here closer in just a moment. Now, just bear in mind too, this is always for educational purposes only. I can't say that enough. I'm not a financial advisor, but I have been in the industry for over 15 years. I've been successfully trading for some time. Not the entire time because I wasn't, I had to start somewhere, right? Just like you, if you are new to trading, that's perfectly fine. You got to learn and develop and grow your style. Learn as much as you can from as many people as possible. That's my advice here for you. Don't take what I say as gospel. Yes, it's very successful, and I have a high success rate myself, average about 80% success rate. Overall, I can tell you that it's one of those things where you want to be yourself. Okay, so learn as much as you can. You'll hear me say that, of course, and obviously, join my Telegram community if you haven't already. Got a good group of folks there. It's growing daily. So thanks again for joining me here today. Let's go ahead and jump right into the video. Let's get to it. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look here at Enzyme. And just before we do, we look at Bitcoin and Ethereum first, get a quick baseline on the market. So if you are new to the channel, obviously welcome. But we always look at Bitcoin because it's really important to understand what's going on with that price movement and see how these coins are, contradicting, moving alongside. We need to understand kind of the communication and how they're working together, right? So that's important to note. And what's probably pretty obvious, this coin I know is doing very well and Bitcoin isn't. So there's likely some fundamental catalysts, but we'll take a look at that here in just a moment. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look here. First of all, at Bitcoin, and just to clarify, we'll look at the 4-hour chart to quickly identify some support and resistance levels. There's a lot of lines here. Let me just quickly explain. First of all, we got the resistance level about 46,800. That was a previous support that didn't hold as resistance or support as all, and it just kept shooting straight down. So it's been a pretty rough last couple of days for Bitcoin. If you look at the total movement from top to bottom, we're down about 16% approximately in 2 days, 2 trading days. So that's a lot. That's about 8% average per day, which is not good. But obviously there's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now. So pay attention to the news this week. There's quite a lot actually going on, and we're going to see some things happen here in the next couple of days. With the real estate over in China, and then also the options being closed or coming to an end, so to speak. The expiration is coming up on the 24th. So there could be a lot more volatility here in the next 72 hours. So just be aware of that, be prepared, and just make sure you have good stop losses and stop limits set up just in case you need to buy the dip or obviously save and hopefully the price doesn't go any lower. So here's kind of where we're at. First of all, to kind of clarify, 44,000 is kind of a previous support level. That was holding pretty strong. Now it's a resistance, obviously. Once it broke below, it could not break above. We've also got a support here that was tentative support at 42,200. That also broke. The other support level here is 40,000. That was a previous resistance level in the past and has proven to be a very strong support level here today. There was a tremendous amount of volume right when the price came down just below 40,000. There's a lot of demand at that point. So I think that 40,000 should hold as a pretty strong support level moving forward, minus the news that happens here soon, right? With that expiration for the options, a lot of problems could come around based on that. But we've seen some pretty interesting things where there's hedge funds and things kind of come out of the woodwork based on that one simple fact. I'm not going into the detail there, but just letting you know that there's some things still to happen in the next couple of days, 3 days more specifically. We'll see what happens here. But for now, I would say 40,000 is a pretty safe support. Secondary to that, just keep in mind 38,000 would be the next level down. There's technically a range between 38,000 and 42,000, which I think the price will probably stay within. It's right in that range there. But we are right now, currently, just below 42,200 and just above 40,000 even. That is the state of the nation for Bitcoin. Now let's go ahead and take a look here at, see here, I skipped over Ethereum, apologize for that. Looking at Ethereum here, we are below all the averages, of course. Same thing as well. I haven't really had a chance to mark any support and resistance levels, but what I can do is extend this one out over here, because I know that was a previous support at about 2,900. As we can see, the price kind of bounced off that, and now we're below. So presently speaking, 2,900 is a major resistance level for Ethereum. So we'll see what happens again in the near future, but a lot of this is based on Bitcoin at the moment, because Ethereum tends to mirror Bitcoin, when there's sharp increases or decreases. When Bitcoin goes sideways for quite some time, then Ethereum kind of breaks away. But when there's a sharp decrease, specifically 17, 18% in just a couple of days, or more so 16% I think it was, then we're going to find that the price will retrace here. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to MLN. All right, now with this one here, this is an interesting one. I marked a previous support level, or correction, previous resistance, now a support on the one-day chart when I took a quick look at this earlier, because my patrons, they asked me to cover coins, and I do this for them. So thank you so much, Ruby, for requesting that I cover this here. Now, regarding this here, now keep in mind, just to quickly note, we've got $128 even is a major resistance level. Okay, so 128 is the resistance. Now it's a support because the one-day chart closed above. Okay, so this candlestick we're seeing right now this just happened 50 minutes ago. So keep this in mind. We've seen a pretty strong increase here in the recent past, whereas the one-day candlestick yesterday, basically the last 24 hours, essentially went from a low of 104 up to a high of about 188, and it kind of closed right around 158. So that being said, current support level, previous resistance is 128. So 128 is a strong support. And we'll look at the 4-hour chart to kind of get some shorter, maybe some closer support levels, because there's probably a few that are being developed as we speak. But generally speaking, that's what we're looking at here for today. Prices staying above 50-day simple moving average is kind of, regardless, that could have pushed the price up there, but that's kind of goes without saying. We had a convergence as well on the MACD. That was yesterday. So sometime yesterday, for obvious reasons, we had that MACD convergence. I don't put a lot of weight in that based on the fact that is obviously the reason why the convergence occurred. It all happened just in a short amount of time. So we need to look at shorter time frames to identify the MACD convergence, preferably on the 4-hour chart. But on the one day, you can tell that something happened yesterday to drive the price up straight up. I mean, and take a look at this here. In one trading day, we saw 89% from bottom to top growth. So that's quite a lot. And today here, obviously, we're looking at a good 40% increase as well. So looking pretty much on fire here for MLN. I always want to say melon, but I know it's not that. It's Enzyme. Regardless, let's go ahead and take a look at the 4-hour chart. So here's what we want to look at the 4-hour chart. First of all, we want to identify some support and resistance levels. There's probably some closer support levels. Yep, these are, again, previous resistance levels, but current support. You can see that was a pretty strong resistance at about 135. Okay, so 135 is essentially the major support level. If we price ends up retracing down that far, it should bounce off of there. Worst case scenario, we lose that, it'll work itself into a channel here, which it had done previously. But I think the fact that we're above that and we blew past it, it's a strong likelihood that if it does come down to that point, it'll stay above. Okay, just bear in mind too, when you have this much increase, and what this is in 1, 2, 3, 4-hour candlesticks, and this one just started. We're talking about 9 hours into our trading period. There's a good chance this could end up retracing back down, because if we look at this history, it has a strong continuation here. In other words, it does this all the time. You see a very significant increase followed by a retracement that comes down and eventually breaks. Okay, so it's happened 1, basically 2, almost 3 times, right? And the very first time, what was that increase? In 4 hours, it went up 85%, so it had to come back down. Keep in mind, this is a 9-hour increase, right? So it's had a little bit more time to mature, a little bit more time to evolve, so to speak. So we'll look at the 1-hour chart more specifically and see kind of if it's a healthy bull run. But this is much better than previous candlesticks where it's ramped up this high and this significantly in a very short amount of time, in under 4 hours. This time it's been, twice that long, right? So you got to kind of look at that. History has a tendency of repeating itself, especially in cryptocurrency. So when this has a history of doing that, we probably see some pretty large volume spikes. Yep, strong volume, strong volume, strong volume. It's just inevitable for it to continue to happen again. It's just a matter of when. So hopefully you got in somewhere around the 105 range and you're doing pretty well. But all in all, It's no surprise seeing the price where it's at based on its history. Let's go ahead and mark the convergence here on the MACD. That was at 9 a.m. on the 21st, which is today. Go ahead and mark that guy here. So somewhere in this range. Okay, and I like to mark that because the 1 hour chart, if we look at the Ishimoku cloud, there's a good chance it right at the exact same time it broke above the cloud. And I like to kind of identify that because, you know, my patrons, everyone that I work with in my community here, my Telegram community as well, we all know that the Ishimoku cloud is a very valuable component to analyzing crypto, right? Or just in general, it's good for trading. And it's really good for cryptocurrency just based on the way that the market moves. So I'll show you here in a moment what I mean by that, but that's why I like to mark that there. And obviously RSI is up over 70, pretty standard. Doesn't necessarily mean you need to sell, but the good rule of thumb for the RSI isn't to sell when it comes above 70, because you would exit your position too early and premature, is to wait for the RSI to start kind of tapering off and coming back down closer to 70. Then you would exit your position. Okay, so we're still well into the point here where you probably want to keep your position open, keep moving your stop loss higher, and if the price comes back down, you can go ahead and exit your position. I will say, just based on what I see here so far, it's very overextended, and there's a good chance that it's going to possibly retrace soon. Okay, so let's take a look at the 1 hour chart to just really truly see what this looks like. Okay, now this isn't terrible. Significant amount of increase in the last 2 hours alone, however. So I like this first 4 hours, but the last 2 hours are a little concerning, just based on the simple fact that, you know, what is it? That's well over 50%, right? Yeah, approximately 53% in a 2 hour period. That's a lot of movement. That is almost way too much in most cases. So I think the likelihood of it staying this high is pretty low. So if you're in the profit in the, just say the 180 to 200 range, I would definitely consider taking some profits and you know, moving your stop loss higher. My rule of thumb is just take 50% profit and to move my stop loss to either break even or to the previous profit target. So if you've already hit profit target 1, 2, and you're at number 3, for example, move it to profit target 2 and leave that as your support level. All right, so that's kind of just a general guideline there. But if we look at the Ishimoku cloud, let's just go ahead and see here. All right, so I loosely marked the 4 hour chart, right? So in this time frame, just say on the 4 hour chart, the MACD convergence, when the MACD was converging, you would take an entry. You would have been in a very good position because you would have taken an entry right around 110, 115 range. And you would be taking some serious profits here. You'd almost be 2x at this point. In fact, look at that, kicking up to 210 already. So with the Ishimoku cloud, just to quickly explain that, because what it does, it tells us when you have a buy signal or a sell signal. So when the price is above, it's considered a buy. When it's below, it's considered a sell. As you can see, every time it's broken above, it stays above for a decent while. But the times that it goes below, it stays below, right? You can see this here as well. Look, it broke above, but in that 1 hour it closed. You want to wait for the 1 hour candlestick to close, of course, before you get confirmation. But that had closed below, essentially, or within the cloud, and it kept staying down. And it kept getting stunted out here, too, with this resistance level about 128. So you can kind of see a consistent pattern here. It keeps pumping up, kept getting rejected, pump, rejection. That's why we have a pretty strong increase here. There's either one or two things. It's just strong fundamentals, which is likely the catalyst, or there was a short squeeze too that pushed the price up even higher. That does have a tendency of happening, so just keep that in mind. But right now we're looking at about 217, 220. It's trying to keep going higher. What we want to identify is how much longer it's going to continue here, right? Because you need to be able to identify how much gas it has left in that tank. And I'm willing to bet that we're in overtime or soon to be in overtime. So let's take a look at the TD sequential and kind of see what's going on here. Okay. So TD sequential, we're at an 8 right now. And if you're new to the TD sequential, what it basically does is it counts from 1 to 9. And what it does, it takes the fourth previous candlestick and analyzes if it's higher or lower than the current price. So just say, for example, this number 8, it's higher for obvious reasons than the fourth previous candlestick, right? Therefore, it's going to continue to count up. And what it does, it counts up until 9, and then it caps out essentially. And once you hit a 9, that signifies that you might have a retracement that occurs soon. You know, the price will essentially reverse, or if nothing else, it'll go sideways. I personally feel that the price will retrace, just based on the fact that we have had such extreme movement in the last 2 hours alone. That's basically telling me that we have a good chance that the price will come back down. It's rare for us to see a coin go up this high without coming back down. Okay, so do yourself a favor and set your stop loss and just keep moving it up as the price goes up. heaven forbid you get stopped out, I guarantee it's not going to go hundreds of dollars higher. It might go a few percent, but you still will take your profits. Do it now before it's too late. Okay. Again, that's just some friendly advice. I'm more of a patient trader and I like to take profits when I can. So I'm going to say that naturally. So if you're more of a, I guess, a risk taker, then go ahead and continue to see how it goes. Ride the lightning, have some fun, but you're going to be pretty sad when the price comes back down after you lost half of your profits. Anyways, just at least move up your stop loss, okay? Just do that. Nothing else. Move it up halfway and keep moving it up until you get there. All right, so anyways, we've identified this here. We're at an 8. We only have maybe one more hour of this continuation before we should expect a retracement. And again, if it retraces, just common rule of thumb. Any type of crypto retracement, because they have a tendency of being violent breakouts like this, they'll come down 50% of its original starting point. So just say hypothetically its starting point was down here at the, just say the 1, we're looking at about 110 as a round number. Then we can expect, with the price being at about 235 as a high point, that somewhere in the range of 175 to 190, it'll average out. Okay. In fact, why don't we take a quick look at that here and see what that might look like. So we'll just go to the lowest point here, on with the highest, and we'll just go ahead and mark Fibonacci. So we're looking at about 185 is the likelihood of it being strong support when the price comes down. So the price does come down, it could and should bounce off of 185 or eventually average out to that point, right? Because that's just a little bit above the halfway point. Usually Fibonacci is like a 60-40, and that's where the lines are at. I like a 50% difference, so if you were to kind of measure, you'd probably be about 175, but 185 is probably a pretty good round number here. And as you can see, it's kind of coming back down again. Let's go ahead and move on to the 15-minute and quickly identify just really quick where we're at here. And as we can see too, there was some pretty strong resistance there as well, so why don't we go ahead and mark that too. Secondary support right at about 167. So if we lose this support at 185, it'll come back down and perhaps likely bounce off of 167 and kind of work within that range. Okay. Again, it's not foolproof. When you have significant, I guess, violent increase in price like this, it just gets kind of crazy. It's kind of you're kind of reaching for straws, because as much as I love Fibonacci, it's not 100% accurate, and you want to try to rely on previous major support and resistance levels. And as we can see, we've already kind of marked those. Those are way in the past. So right now we're kind of in this extended period. So we'll see. So my prediction here for this one here is for the price to retrace. Just so for today, I speculate the price is going to average out around 185 within the next 24 to 48 hours. Okay. There's a small likelihood it could continue going higher, right? Sometimes the price will continue past a 9 on TD sequential and just keep going. There's no guarantees, but the one guarantee I can tell you is that this will eventually come back down. Okay. Look at its history. It's done this a few times over. Obviously ICO date, or just say as the first day was introduced to Binance, we have a significant increase followed by a decrease, right? Strong retrace, up, retrace. I mean, it's got this heartbeat monitor going on, right? It keeps going up and down. I mean, this goes up this high. How much lower do you think it's going to go? It'll only go as low as the most recent support levels. So there's a strong chance it could work its way down to 135 eventually, but I think initially it'll kind of hover out around 185, and we'll see some price action closer between 185 and 167. Now, big picture, this one does seem like it's got some potential to go pretty big. Okay, so by year end, I would speculate this will probably be in the $300 to $400 range. And the reason why I say that is based on the fact that it pumps like this significantly, right? So again, it may not stay at that price, but it'll get to that price eventually, because if Bitcoin can take off, then we're going to be in pretty good shape. And Bitcoin is, on its 4-year cycle right now in September, it's basically a red month. Septembers are always red months, but Octobers, 2013, 2017, 2021, potentially next month, are always somewhere in the range of 50% or higher growth. So I'm confident we're going to see some growth in October, November, possibly even December to finish off the year strong with Bitcoin. I think 100,000 is very likely. And in that case, if that is a situation, we can imagine all the altcoins will hypothetically double from where they're at right now, based on the fact that they usually go 1.5 to 2x what Bitcoin does. Okay. It's just some things to think about. Nothing set in stone, of course, but I would just say be cautious, be careful, and be smart. This is not gambling. This is investing, and you gotta control what you can and take profits when you can as well. Like, I mean, I tell my patrons this all the time. Make sure you take your profits when you can. Don't get greedy. Diamond hands are the devil's playground, right? It's kind of a funny analogy, but it really is true. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with, being a hodler. I hodl plenty of coins in my own spare time, but it's not like majority of my investment, right? It's not everything that I do and I focus on. It's kind of more of a side project. So just be careful. Again, take profits. If you have a position right now, you can see how much is jumping up and down. Move your stop loss off to at least 167, the first support level, and then maybe even comfortably move it up to 185, because I think it's safe to say the price will come back down to 185 very, very soon. So just be prepared for that, be ready for it. And yes, there's a good chance it could pump up again, but I can assure you it's not going to go much higher much longer. I mean, every time it's pumped up like this, look at the last 2 days tops. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. We're hypothetically starting day number 2 right now. Okay, you've been warned. Heads up. I hope this works out for you regardless, and you take profits while you still can, but if not, just be safe and move up your stop loss. So I'm sorry I sound like a broken record. I do that because I like to protect my patrons. So again, Ruby, be smart about this, be safe, and just make sure you take profits while you still can. And if you're new to the channel too, I don't know if you obviously you probably are if you're watching this. I would recommend also maybe referencing my Patron account, because I do provide trades to my community members where I share all of my trades. Some weeks more, some weeks less, but I generally provide you with best practice, and I have about an 80% success rate with all of my trades, and we're all growing and all doing very well. So check that out in your own time, of course, link in the description. But thank you again so much for joining me here today. Hope you have a good rest of your day. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.